If such an idea is being considered, then how is the possibility of incorporating the conception, its individual components, into the general economic theory seen? The possibility of incorporating the conception or its individual components into the current general economic theory is not seen at all. Because the problem is that in the existing economic education, everything except accounting and mathematics is either nonsense or inherently from the devil, with the purpose of misleading those who read these books. Since it is necessary to work out a uniform reaction of a multitude of clerks in the economic system, which would support a certain mode of functioning of this system. It was not me who invented it. Galbraith wrote about this in 1973 in his book Economics and the Public Purpose. He directly pointed out that economic theories play an institutional role, precisely shaping the mentality and reaction of a multitude of clerks to the input flow of information. Therefore, it is the case that the conception of social safety has its own economic theory. The economic theory of the conception of social safety is an applied branch of the sufficiently general theory of governance, in which the biospheric social-economic system is considered as an object of governance. What are the principal provisions of this economic theory? First of all, the division of the entire set of needs of society into two components: the spectrum of demographically conditioned needs, which are conditioned by human biology, and the needs of the development of society, and degradational parasitic needs, which arise mainly from hedonistic motives and are expressed in the parasitism of people, one on the other, society on nature, and their satisfaction in one way or the other generates degradational processes both in nature and in society. Second, from the point of view of the sufficiently general theory of governance, the credit financial system is an instrument for governance towards the economy, and, accordingly, the question arises of in whose ownership it is. There are two variants. Either it's owned by the state, and all are its users, both residents and non-residents, or it is owned by a transnational usurious corporation that usurped banking. And in this case, everyone strives to grab more dough for himself, not realizing that in this case he is still a slave of dough and this system, no matter how much dough he is able to grab. Yes, of course, the situation of those who grabbed a little, it is much less comfortable than the situation of those who grabbed a lot. But, nevertheless, the life of society as a whole and the prospects of mankind do not get any better from this. Further, historically developed theories do not understand one simple thing: the function of the price, if we consider the governorial function of price, at the level of the sector, within the boundaries of the sector. If we consider the price within the boundaries of the sector, then the price is the financial expression of the evaluation of product quality by the consumer. Not the cost of its production, not something else, but precisely the evaluation by a potential consumer of product quality. If the cost is low, but you can raise a high price, this means that you were able to convince potential customers that the product, in the best way, meets their needs. And if we rise to the level of the multi-sectoral macroeconomic system as a whole, It turns out that the function of the price is completely different. The price expresses a financial deficit, a shortage of production in relation to the demand of society as such. And if we look at the functioning of the credit financial system as an instrument for governance towards the economy, then a very non-trivial conclusion that does not enter the heads of most economists is obtained. The price current is a financial expression of the vector of error of governance. That is, in the ideal mode of functioning of the economy, all prices for the end consumer are in some way zero. The question is whether the society has liquidated the credit financial system in general, or everyone gets money simply for the fact that they are citizens of the country and they can use this money as they want, regardless of whether they work or not. Why is this variant possible? Because, among other things, the credit financial system, this is one of the indicators of what is happening in the economy. Until you find another meter, you will use it. Next question. Can governance towards the social sphere be called an area of potentially stable governance? Yes, you can call it thus. And governance towards the social sphere, governance towards society, it really can be an area of potentially stable governance. In terms of which elements? In terms of meeting demographically conditioned needs, because demographically conditioned needs, they are determined by the physiology and psychology of people, the level of cultural development, the way of life in each region of people. And these needs are predictable for decades and centuries to come. If your needs are predictable, then you, if you are not a stupid governor, can bring the economy into a regime of guaranteed satisfaction of them. You can then use excess production capacity to meet the unpredictable needs. But the unpredictable component should not belong to the degradational parasitic spectrum of needs. And it will be relatively insignificant in terms of economic costs that should be spent on its satisfaction. Next question. What can be called the governing signal for governance towards the social system? You see, anything can be called a governing signal. It all depends on the concretics of the circumstances, what objectives you want to achieve, and by what means. The hierarchy of 6 priorities of generalized means of governance, it precisely provides an idea of what kind of governorial signals can go through each of the priorities of generalized means of governance. On the 6th priority, a demonstration of military force, or on a small scale, a threat to a child with a belt. And on the 1st priority, whether you want this or not, there, noseology works. If you have mastered your cognitive creative culture, developed it and it is effective, then you yourself will deal with the signals. Next question. What is meant by socially beneficial governance in the context of improving the quality of life of the population? The answer to this question is such that there are objective laws to which the lives of people are subordinate. There are 6 such objective laws: pan-biospheric, which regulate the life of biocenoses and the interaction of the biosphere with the cosmos and nature as a whole; species-specific, which characterize a person; religious noospheric, nravious ethical in their essence; further, economic, social, cultural, and governorial. Depending on how you define what the quality of life of a society is, then it will be socially beneficial governance. But further, the alternative-less criterion, practice is the criterion of truth, comes into play. If you made a mistake in setting the ideal of the quality of life of society, then these objective laws will appear to you in the form of problems that you cannot solve. This is exactly what a historically formed society faces on the basis of the mentality which is dominant in culture. If this mentality has generated problems, then this mentality is unable to find ways to solve them. It is necessary to change the mentality. If we talk about what is meant by the quality of life of society in the conception of social safety, then, first of all, the safety of life of each and everyone is understood. That is, society should not create problems for itself. And this means that civilization should generate such a culture in which the creative potential is mastered by everyone. The creative potential in life of each person is realized by a volitional order under the power of the dictatorship of Soviet. This is the core that will generate the quality of life that will ensure the absence of problems, the release of creative potential for the solution of some other tasks, and a different way of life, not only in Russia, but also for the entire global civilization. Next question. In general, I am interested in the conception as applied to the development of a system of governance towards the social sphere. As applied to the development of the social sphere, one must understand the following things. Statehood. This is a subculture of governance towards the affairs of society on a professional basis. But statehood cannot replace and implement all the processes of governance that must be in society in order for it to live well. In order for a society to live well, a society must be completely governorially literate. Moreover, governorial literacy in the given case implies certain ideas about how society as a whole, as a system, lives, and what role, including governorial, is played by these or those social groups, spheres of activity, sectors of the economy, the behavior of each person in life. So, if this is present, then in this case, social initiatives support state governance, and state governance can rely on social initiatives. If for both, governance is built under the power of a dictatorship of Soviet, then the situation where I love the motherland, but I hate the state becomes impossible by force of the Nravious ethical homogeneity of the entire society.